You know how some places feel like they're pulled straight out of a dream? So unreal you almost have to blink twice just to make sure they exist? Japan is exactly that kind of dream. The moment you land, the air itself feels different. It smells like clean rain, green tea, and quiet discipline. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the country whispering, "Welcome, now slow down and pay attention." Japan doesn't rush to impress you. It doesn't need to. It just opens itself, calmly, confidently, like a garden in spring. One moment you're staring at a centuries-old temple made entirely of wood and patience. The next you're watching a bullet train blur past like a silver streak of precision. Somehow, both belong perfectly to the same world. That's Japan, a country that lives comfortably between contradiction and balance. I started in Kyoto, the old soul of Japan. The city feels like it has seen everything, and yet it never shows off. You wander through alleys that smell faintly of incense and sakura, and you realize time works differently here. At dawn, I climbed Fushimi Inari Shrine, where thousands of red torii gates twist through the forest like a dragon made of wood and prayer. The light filters through the slats, warm and alive, and your footsteps echo softly, as if even the ground wants to meditate. Every gate you pass carries someone's wish, a business hope, a prayer for family, a silent thank you. You don't rush here. You move slowly because the forest itself seems to breathe around you. Somewhere between the rustle of leaves and the faint clang of a bell, you start to understand what the Japanese mean by wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection, the grace in transience. And then Kyoto decides to flex its poetic muscles. Spring arrives, and the city bursts into pink clouds. Cherry blossoms drift down like confetti at the world's calmest celebration. Locals gather under the trees with bento boxes, laughing softly, sipping sake, and no one checks their phone. It's almost suspicious. In summer, lanterns glow for Gion Matsuri, the ancient festival where floats bigger than houses roll through the streets, while musicians in kimonos play flutes that sound like nostalgia itself. But my favorite part of Kyoto wasn't any grand temple or festival. It was the quiet. Sitting in a tea house, watching steam rise from a cup of matcha, I realized that in Japan, doing something slowly isn't a waste of time. It's a form of art. And then you go to Tokyo, and all that serenity gets punched in the face by electricity. This city is alive. Not just alive, it's caffeinated. It's what happens when you give order and chaos an apartment together and tell them to make it work. The first time I stood in Shibuya Crossing, surrounded by 1,000 people moving in perfect rhythm, I thought, this must be what the internet looks like if it were human. Lights flash, music blares, and massive screens play ads that could easily double as sci-fi movies. But just a few streets away, you find Meiji Shrine. Ancient, silent, with wooden gates taller than billboards. It's surreal. One second you're dodging electric skateboards, the next you're standing under trees so old they probably remember when Tokyo was just rice fields. That's the secret of Tokyo. It never forces you to choose between old and new. It just says, here, have both. You can eat at a ramen joint that's been around for 300 years, then take a train that's more punctual than your last 5 relationships combined. The trains here are so precise it's almost unsettling. If one's late by 30 seconds, an apology is issued. In my country, 30 seconds late means on time and proud of it. And speaking of trains, let's talk about convenience stores, or konbini. These places are like heaven's vending machine. You walk in expecting snacks and walk out with a full meal, a magazine, and existential peace. The rice balls, flawless. The iced coffee, probably brewed by angels. Even the packaging opens like origami. I once bought a boiled egg, and it came with its own salt packet and moral support. But Japan isn't all bright lights and packaging perfection. Step outside the city, and it's like the volume knob of life turns down. In Hakone, I stood beside Lake Ashi, where a red torii gate floats on calm water. Mist rolls over the surface, blending mountain and sky until they're indistinguishable. It's quiet in a way that almost feels sacred, like the world decided to hold its breath. Locals come here to pray for safe journeys, but you don't have to be religious to feel the peace. Further west, Itsukushima Shrine rises from the sea, a bright orange structure that looks like it's walking on water. At high tide, it floats. At low tide, you can walk right up to it and touch the seaweed on its legs. Deer roam the island like they own it, bowing politely in exchange for snacks. And when the sun sets, the whole place glows like it's been painted in gold. Then there's Osaka, Japan's loud, delicious, hilarious cousin. If Kyoto is the wise monk, Osaka is the karaoke-loving uncle who insists you try every street food twice. This is where I learned that food can be both sacred and chaotic. Takoyaki, little balls of dough stuffed with octopus, are cooked on sizzling iron plates while vendors shout like sports commentators. And okonomiyaki, a kind of Japanese pancake, is so packed with flavor it should come with a warning label. But what really makes Osaka unforgettable are the people. They talk with their hands, laugh with their lungs, and somehow make strangers feel like cousins. In Dotonbori, the lights shimmer off the canal as giant neon crabs wave their claws overhead. Somewhere, someone is yelling about karaoke. It's impossible not to grin. Travel north and the temperature drops. Welcome to Hokkaido, where winter feels like a fairy tale written entirely in white. Snow falls so softly it mutes the world. The Sapporo Snow Festival turns ice into castles, dragons, and even Pikachu sculptures that could probably melt your heart faster than the sun. The seafood here? Unfairly fresh. You eat crabs so sweet it feels like dessert. Even the corn tastes like it studied flavor at a higher institution. And then, of course, Mount Fuji, Japan's pride. The mountain that manages to look perfectly symmetrical from every angle, like it was designed by an artist obsessed with geometry. From afar, Fuji looks peaceful, but climb it, and you'll realize it's both a challenge and a meditation. Thousands climb at night to catch the sunrise. A sea of clouds below, a sky painted gold above. It's the kind of beauty that makes even the loudest people go quiet. Down below, Lake Kawaguchiko reflects Fuji like a mirror, doubling the awe. When cherry blossoms bloom along its shores, it's almost too perfect. The kind of scene that makes you say, "This can't be real," at least 5 times. But it is. In Hiroshima, history speaks softly but powerfully. The atomic bomb dome stands as both a scar and a lesson. Yet the city isn't frozen in sorrow. Kids laugh in Peace Park. Paper cranes flutter in the breeze. Okonomiyaki sizzles in roadside stalls. The past and the present don't compete here. They hold hands. Hiroshima doesn't just remember tragedy, it teaches peace. And if Tokyo is energy, Kyoto grace, Osaka laughter, and Hiroshima reflection, then Yokohama is warmth. A port city with sea air and open hearts. Chinatown fills the streets with color and spice, while the waterfront feels like Japan's way of saying, "Take a walk, breathe, we've got time." Farther south, the rhythm of Japan slows again, like the country itself is exhaling after all the motion. In Saga Prefecture, I found Utoku Inari Shrine, one of those places that makes you wonder how beauty this balanced could stay so hidden. The entire complex is painted in deep red, built on wooden stilts that rise out of a green hillside. It feels suspended between earth and heaven. You climb a path lined with vermilion gates, one after another, the forest whispering on either side. Somewhere between the bird song and the soft crunch of your footsteps, you realize Japan doesn't just build shrines, it builds experiences that quiet the noise inside your head. By the time you reach the top, there's an observation deck that looks out over fields, rivers, and villages spread like brushstrokes across the landscape. It's not just a view, it's therapy with better air. And if Utoku is calm, then Namba in Osaka is chaos, the best kind. The neon is louder, the laughter thicker, and the food, well, let's just say if you ever need to eat your emotions, Osaka's got you covered. Every street corner smells like something sizzling, takoyaki bubbling in round molds, skewers of kushikatsu frying golden in oil, ramen broth simmering like a love letter to sodium. Locals will tell you, "Cuidare," eat until you fall over, and they mean it. I once asked an Osakan how he stays so cheerful, and he shrugged and said, "We laugh, we eat, and when it rains, we eat indoors." Honestly, I respect that. Travel north again and you hit Nagano, where winter feels cinematic. In the mountains of Myoko, powder snow falls so lightly it looks like the sky is dusting sugar over the world. Onsen steam rises between pines, and if you're lucky, you'll spot the famous snow monkeys soaking in hot springs, like tiny old men having philosophical debates. Somewhere, a monk walks past, ringing a bell that seems to echo for miles. It's the kind of place that reminds you how silence can sound alive. In Nagasaki, the story turns layered. East meets west, faith meets survival. The air feels thick with history. Dejima Island still holds the echoes of traders and sailors who once bridged Japan to the rest of the world. And the Peace Park, it's impossible to walk there without feeling something shift inside. The statues aren't just art, they're prayers carved in stone. But step outside that solemn quiet and Nagasaki sparkles again. Streetlights over the harbour, the smell of pork buns in Chinatown, laughter rolling up the hills. It's a city that remembers but refuses to be defined by sadness. Yokohama, Japan's second largest city, feels like a deep breath after all that history. It's modern, relaxed, open to the sea. You stroll along the waterfront and watch cruise ships glow under twilight. Ferris wheels spin lazily against the skyline. The air smells of salt and sugar, partly ocean breeze, partly the desserts from the cafes nearby. Chinatown bursts with colours and dragons, and the Cup Noodles Museum proves that even instant ramen can have its own museum in Japan. Because, let's be honest, noodles here are practically a religion. Hit like, share it with someone who dreams of cherry blossoms and neon nights, and subscribe for more stories that remind you the world is vast, wild, and waiting. Until next time, arigato, and may your path be as peaceful as a Kyoto morning and as alive as a Tokyo night.